Ooga chaka, ooga, ooga, ooga chaka, ooga, ooga, ooga chaka, ooga, ooga, ooga chaka, ooga, ooga. I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me. Girl, you just don't realize what you do to me when you hold me in your arms so tight. You let me know everything's alright. What I'm feeling, I'm high on.
Good evening, Fire Flames. This is your co-commissioner, Julian Spindell, first of his name, former T-Jack recipient, currently in first place, king of the Andals, and the first men. So, we have a lot of things to discuss tonight, so let's get to it. First, I want to point out that I am in Guidebook headquarters, located in beautiful downtown Palo Alto. So take a look. This is where the draft was held this year, the draft summit that is, and many of you have seen the office already. So, let's talk about scores. And we'll start with my matchup against Kelly. Some music going. Cool. Alright, first matchup of the week. The Content Kings taking on the Flamin' Unicorns. I was able to win very easily against Kelly, 122 to 73. Or 122 to 72. I had a spectacular performance from Odell Beckham Jr. Kelly did not have Arian Foster play, which is a huge hindrance to her, and I definitely attribute a lot of my win to that. So that put me into first place. Very happy about it. I'm just very happy to not gonna get the TJ this year. Next matchup was... Sorry, this is my second take. Next matchup was the Jacksonville French Bassoons taking on Andrew Lucky China. Andrew Lucky China was able to win 118 to 82. Jacob had a great game from Drew Brees, throwing for 420 blaze it yards against the Ravens last night. So Jacob moves to 7-5, clinches a playoff spot. Max moves to 5-7. Next matchup is Team Snoopy, best name in the league, taking on the Guardians of the Gridiron, Carsko's team. Carsko lost, moves to 7-5, and Team Snoopy goes to 6-6, and puts himself in a good position to get into the playoffs this coming week. After that, we have West St. Paul Somebody Tolzien, coached by Niall, the other co-commissioner and two-time champion of Fire Flames. Niall beat Eli, the Carisas, 99 to 77, with a good performance from Russell Wilson, I suppose. That's who they're listing, so that's what I'm going to say. And Eli moves to 5-7, and is sort of in a rut right now in terms of playoff positioning. Next matchup, we had the Agrabah boys taking on AutoWin, Grandmaster Time Providers. As to no one's surprise, Henry was able to win the game 112 to 66. My dad has CJ Anderson, who I've pointed out multiple times he could have picked up, but he traded for. It's beyond me. I don't know. Anyway, our last matchup of Week 12 was Insidious Rex taking on Sweet Sarah and the team that must not be named. Chris won this one, had a great score, kind of bounced back from a few down weeks. He won 124 to 85. Chris had a big game from Justin Forsett on Monday night against the Saints' porous run defense, and Chris acquired Justin Forsett in a trade earlier. I forget with which team, but it looks like Justin Forsett really paid off there. So those are the Week 12 scores, and now I'd like to get into everyone's favorite portion of the week, which is the Shame of the Week. So here we go. Make sure this lines up. There we go. In 3, 2.
Shame of the Week. Cannot play with him. Cannot win with him. Cannot coach with him. Can't do it. Shame of the
play to win the
You
game.
play to win the game.
I want winning.
Playoffs?
You don't play to just play it.
She's not a Christian!
That's the great thing about sports.
And that was a disgraceful performance. Playoffs?
On September the 11th, enemies of freedom committed an act of war against our country.
Oppan Gangnam Style.
This week's Shame of the Week goes to the Guardians of the Gridiron. So let me explain the reasoning behind it, besides the fact that I love to piss Carsko off. I was looking at John's team, and he played Cordarrelle Patterson, and I thought, hey, he must be, getting hit pretty hard with buys here. There's got to be a reason he's playing Cordarrelle Patterson, but there isn't. That's the third wide receiver that he could play ostensibly. That kind of speaks to how well his team is performing this year. I sort of feel bad. I mean, in the past, Carsko's had a lot of trouble. He's scored a lot of points, had some great teams, but he's also had a lot of points scored against him, and he's either missed the playoffs or gotten a pretty poor seed because of it. This year is kind of the opposite. Carsko's found a way to win games, even though he is in the bottom 4 for points scored. So that's why I'm giving him my Week 12 Shame of the Week, rather than giving it to Max, who's had a bunch of terrible benches throughout the season that have caused him to go 5-7, or Eli, who's hasn't really had a tight end or a quarterback a lot of the year. Anyone can give Max or Eli the Shame of the Week for those reasons, pretty much any week. But I'm above that, and I'm not going to do it. So let's get into next week, and there are some important playoff implications that need to be discussed. All right, Week 13, final week of the regular season. First matchup is between an East Palo Alto showdown between the Content Kings and Andrew Lucky China. Two former TJAC recipients squaring off in, surprisingly, a battle for first. This is almost a de facto first place game. If Jacob wins, he's likely going to have more points than I am, and I'll have the same record, which would give him the number 1 seed. So that's interesting to look out for. But obviously I'll be looking to win that game and not go 0-2 on the yearly series against him. Our next matchup is the Flamin' Unicorns against the Grandmaster Time Providers. This gives Kelly a decent chance to go to get the top seed as well if she puts up a ton of points. But she is almost certainly guaranteed to win here against the adult diaper doormat team that my dad has. So congratulations, Kelly, on going 8-5 most likely this season. Next matchup here is the Guardians of the Gridiron against Insidious Rex. This is kind of a who cares matchup. Not because I don't like the teams, but because it really just these teams are already in the playoffs, and there's really not much here to talk about except for seeding. So if I had to pick someone to win, it'd probably be Insidious Rex with Justin Forsett's strong performance. Next matchup, the Acrobat Boys and Team Snoopy. Henry, this is actually an interesting game because it has a few playoff implications for Coy. Coy wins and he's in. We'll get to that later. But this also gives Henry a good chance to get the number 1 seed if he wins and scores a lot of points. So, penultimate matchup here is West St. Paul Somebody Tolzien against poor sweet Sarah, the team that must not be named. Sarah's out of the playoffs at this point, which is sad. She can at least try and screw over Niles' playoff seeding, which I would love to see. But she's out, Niles in. There's really not much more to talk about at that point. Our last matchup of Week 13, and I don't think he could have written a better script than this, is the Carisas, Eli's team, taking on the Jacksonville French Bassoons. It's Eli versus Max. It's the Iron Bowl. It's Michigan Ohio State. Pretty much the biggest rivalry matchup in all of fantasy football as well as real life. And that's probably the best, that's the best thing that could happen here. So, here's what can happen. We have 3 people and 1 playoff spot left. The person that's most likely to get in is Coy. Coy can get in with a win, or if Eli loses. Now, Eli can get in if Coy loses, Eli wins, and Eli scores enough points to put him over Coy's point total for the year. There is a third situation in which Max can get in, highly unlikely, but it's as follows. Coy loses. Max beats Eli, and Max, by some miracle of Christ, scores 90 more points than Coy. So those are the three situations to look out for this week to determine the last spot. Otherwise, it's most likely, the T-Jack is most likely looking like Eli, Max, Sarah, and Adam, in that order. So that wraps up the recap for week 12, as well as the preview for week 13. To those in the playoffs already, I wish you good luck in week 14. And for those of you that are vying for spots in the T-Jack, I leave you with this. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Tell the Russians to put on another nonsense suntan lotion.